Every spring, the familiar buzz returns to Daytona. The six-cylinder speedsters of the NASCAR Goodies Dash Series returns to tackle their toughest test, the high banks at the World Center of Racing. This series features a little bit of everything: high speeds, high drama, high danger, and high rewards for whoever can avoid the most trouble and get to victory lane. Year in and year out, it's one of the most entertaining races of Speed Weeks, and is heading your way next. The Daytona USA 150 for the Goodies Dash Series, next, live on Speed. Welcome to a beautiful afternoon in Daytona Beach, Florida. The World Center of Racing is the 24th annual Daytona USA 150 for the NASCAR Goodies Dash Series. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Burns. Thank you for joining us here on the Speed Channel. Well, it's the Super Bowl of stock car racing, and you'll see it all down here. The Daytona 500, the Busch Series, IROC, ARCA. If it's a stock car, it runs here. The first series to race, to take a green flag, the NASCAR Goodies Dash Series. Joining us in the booth, Larry McReynolds, who has won the Daytona 500 here 2 times. Larry, it's the Super Bowl.
Well, we're probably the only sport that exists that starts with the biggest event of the year. And all the series you named, it's their biggest event. But when you consider the Goodies Dash Series predominantly runs on half-mile short tracks, it's by far their biggest event of the season.
Well, we have some crew chief knowledge here. Jeff Hammond won this race in 1989 with Darrell Waltrip, and he gives us a closer look at a Dash Series car.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve and Larry. I guarantee you, folks, right now, when you look at this car, if you'll notice one of the first things, look how sleek it is. Aerodynamics and handling are just as important in the Goodies Dash Series as it is in the Winston Cup Series. These cars may be a little bit smaller and may run a V6 engine compared to the bigger V8s, but they still need to be restricted, and they're just as fast and just as treacherous to drive, and these guys do a great job at doing it. And for more on what it really goes into a Goodies Dash car, Steve and Larry can allude to it.
All right, Jeff, let's take a little bit closer look. Larry, right at the top of the screen, the first difference, wheelbase.
10 inches shorter than the Winston Cup car. You look at the difference in engine size, cubic inches, in the compression ratio, and look at the 130 horsepower difference. And here the Goodies Dash cars run an 1 1/16 carburetor restrictor plate, knocks about 60 horsepower out of those V6s, and you certainly see they're much lighter than the Winston Cup cars. 2,950
pounds with the driver. Not as much horsepower, but Larry, these guys haul the mail. They'll run 170 miles an hour.
Oh, Steve, they love the draft. They're about 5 or 6 miles per hour faster in the draft than they qualified. Here's the hot spot. This is the spot we're going to be watching. This is on the short chute coming off turn 4, entering the tri-oval. You can run about 3 or 4 wide down that straightaway, but it's like a funnel. Somebody has to give or you end up like this. But you've seen the roll cages these cars have, a lot like the Winston Cup cars.
This is by far the biggest track they run on. 10 of the 14 events they'll go to this year. Tracks a half mile or smaller, but they love to run fast on this racetrack. Well, the first order of business today was qualifying for the Daytona 500. Jeff Hammond has more on that.
That's right, Steve. And one of the biggest surprises of the day is the fact that Jimmy Johnson, rookie, I said rookie of the year candidate for Hendrick Motorsports, is on the pole for the Daytona 500. I talked to the Jimmy Johnson right after his qualifying run, and he told me, he said, Jeff, you're not going to believe this. I almost wrecked coming off the turn 4 on the final lap, but he held on to it and put his Chevrolet on the pole for the 500. Steve?
Larry, I think he said rookie.
And we got it, theoretically, we got an all-rookie front row. This is Kevin Harvick's first qualifying attempt for the Daytona 500. 7 Chevrolets, 3 Dodges in the top 10, 3 Richard Childress Racing Chevrolets in the top 10.
Larry, as we look at the rest of the drivers and how they performed today, we should note only the top 2 drivers locked in their spot, the front row for the Daytona 500.
Everything else is through the 125-mile qualifying races on Thursday, but what we've seen in the past, if you're somewhere in there 20th to 25th fastest, you're probably safe since the end of the field is based on speeds from qualifying.
And you see Carl Long, 50th fastest today in qualifying for the Daytona 500. Again, we'll have the twin 125s on Thursday.
And the Roush car is really struggling today.
Well, it's time for us to go racing here at the Daytona International Speedway. The NASCAR Goodies Dash Series coming at you here on Speed Channel. Here in Daytona, look at the starting grid. Larry Caudle, a three-time winner of this race on the pole, a two-time series champion alongside Justin Hobgood, 22 years old, won this race last year.
There's Cam Strader. He'll start third, 2001 champion, only Ford in the field.
And you mentioned Ford, Larry. There's over 30 Pontiacs in the field.
There you see Eric Wilson going off 10th. He's actually the jack man for the 32 Ricky Craven Winston Cup team.
And Jake Hobgood, the older brother of Justin Hobgood. Jake's going to try and make that Truck Series race.
Doing a little double duty this week.
You take a look at row 8. Huffman, a four-time series champion.
Mike Gaines, the youngest guy in the field, is 21. Mike Gaines is 62 years old.
Mickey York in a 24 car, making his 24th attempt to win here at Daytona. A young racer in the 31, that's Zach Brewer, alongside a veteran, Dave Heitzhaus.
Danny Bagwell, he'll go off 26, one of only 4 Mercury Cougars in the field.
And Chuck Kafara, then the number 26. He's got pressure, Larry. He just got married last weekend.
Plus, he was a fabricator for Penske Racing, decided he wanted to go racing.
Row 16, Mike Swaim Sr. He's another former champion of this race and the series. Kelly Sutton, the second of 2 females in this race. We take a look at the rest of the field for this 60-lap race.
Here on the last row, you'll see Dan Schaefer. He's doing double duty. He'll be in the ARCA race tomorrow live on the Speed Channel at 11 a.m.
Hey, I think I'll be here for that. So that's your starting grid for today's race. Let's go down now to Jeff Hammond for a report on our series champion, Cam Strader.
Yes, Steve, I talked to Cam Strader earlier this morning. I said, hey, car really looks like it's pretty fast. After final practice, he was the fastest car around the racetrack. But he also said, hey, I'm the only Ford out there. I may be by myself when it comes time to need some help. A lot of Pontiacs, one Ford, but he feels very confident after coming off a 4-race win last year that he can repeat as champion and win more races than he did a year ago. Steve, what do you think about that?
Well, if he's the only Ford in the field, he might not have any friends, Larry.
Trust me, 60 laps, there is no friends.